Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video, I will show you how to integrate Firebase Cloud Firestore inside your Godot game engine for iOS. So we will be creating an iOS plugin to integrate it, and we will be using the Swift Godot library for this. Yeah, let's get started. So firstly, what I have done is that I have created an empty folder called Godot. You can name it whatever you feel like. The reason why I have created one empty folder, because we need to create three separate folders. One is for our iOS library, one is our Godot game engine project, and third one would be extracting that into that Godot game project into a iOS project. So I don't want to uh, just for my own sanity sake, I have created one folder, but you can name it whatever you feel like. First thing which we will have to do is we'll just have to open Xcode. Now you will obviously require Xcode and macOS, otherwise you won't be able to create this particular plugin. So let's just wait for Xcode to open. Once it has opened, just click on file new and file new and package. Let's just wait, and here you can select multi-platform, select library, click next, and here you will now have to go to the Godot folder, empty folder which we have created. I'm naming my library as just my library, just for simplicity sake. You can name it whatever you feel like, but do remember this name, because we will be using this name in lot other places as well. So inside our Godot folder, I'll just create this. Now let's just wait. Okay, now if you see over here, I have just created one cheat sheet again for my own sake. If you want, you can use it, otherwise then it's fine as well. Next, we'll have to open this particular URL, because this will guide us on how to add Swift Godot to our project. So let's just open this, and the very first thing, so we have already done this first step. Next step is we have to add these dependencies. So I have already written this, so just copy it. You can just copy it from the documentation as well. So go to your Godot project, iOS plugin project. Yeah, it's been a long day. Next, after this products array, we have to add this, and just do command S, so it will automatically download the dependency using Swift package manager. So if you concentrate over here, it has created this package.result, and it automatically added all these files for us as well. Okay, so this is done. Let's see the next step. We have to add this platforms iOS version 17. So minimum I have kept it as 17. Version 15 was not really working for me. So if I scroll over here you can see it is telling me to add this platform. They are using macOS. In our case it will be iOS. So after this name we will have to add this. So after this particular name I will add it over here. Okay, once that is done, we have to add this type dynamic as well. Now again, if you see, they have added this type dynamic after the library name. So just come over here and add this particular bit of code. Once that is done, we have to add this bit of code as well. Again, I will just come to the documentation. If I scroll down here, you can see they have added this dependency after the target name. So after the target name, just add one comma and paste it something like this. Now I will just do command A, control I for the indentation to be proper, and just do command S as well, just to quickly save it. So this is done. Next, at least now at the time of me recording this video, Swift Godot does not support Swift version 6. There are still a lot of issues with that. So what I will do, I will change this version to Swift 5.10. But if you are watching this video and if Swift Godot already supports 6.0 or higher version, you don't have to make this change. So I will just quickly save this. Once that is saved, let's see what's the next step. We are done with this. Okay, now we will have to write the actual code. Now before we write the actual code, you will have to create our Godot game engine, because we require the app bundle identifier for iOS. So just open Godot, and we'll first create one project. So just click on create, browse, go to the Godot folder which we have created. So over here I'll select the current folder. I'll just name it as my Godot project. Name it whatever you feel like. Okay, and I'll just click on create and edit. Also at the time of recording I'm using Godot 4.3.0, but I don't think there will be any major breaking changes as such. So yeah, just letting you know my Godot version. Then go to project, export, click on add iOS, click on fix import. You have to add your app store team ID. I will add it later on, but make sure you add your app store team ID now. In case if you don't know how to get your App Store team ID, you can just follow this particular URL. It will tell you how to get your App Store team ID. Okay, I'll enter it later on. And here I will enter my bundle identifier as well. Com dot, I don't know, some app dot no app. Yeah, you can enter whatever you feel like. Given that I'm not deploying this app to Apple App Store, so I have entered some random thing. Then I'll just close this. Alright, so the next thing which we have to do is we'll have to go to firebase.google.com. We have to create a Firebase project. I'll just click on go to console, and let's just wait. I'll just create one app, create a new project, name it whatever you feel like. I will name it as my app too. You should give a proper name. Just click on continue. I don't want any analytics, I'll just disable it. I'll just click on create project. Now let's just wait for this project to finish. Okay, so this is done. Now I'll just click on continue. Next we need to add our iOS project to this Firebase app. Just click on this iOS plus button. Firstly we'll copy our bundle identifier over here. So this, now if you have your App Store ID, you can paste it over here as well, but it is not necessary. I'll just click on register app. Then we have to download this Google services info playlist file. I'll just download it, but I will use this later on at the very end. Do keep this file handy, we won't be using it now. I'll click on next. Then we have to add this Firebase iOS SDK to our project. Now what I'll do is I will just cheat a little. I have already created one sample project. I will just open that because I don't want to make any mistake, and then I'll show it to you. So all we are doing is that we are creating one more package. So if you see over here, come back to your Xcode, and we have this package for Swift Godot, right? Similarly we'll have to add it for Firebase FireStore as well. So just add a comma and paste it over here. Again do command S, so it will automatically download the dependencies for you. Again you will see it over here. It takes a little bit of time because there are a lot of dependencies which Firebase needs to download. That's why just wait for a second, and it will all the dependencies will show up. Also if you see over here, we also need to specify we are using Firebase FireStore dependencies. Okay, so we need to specify inside the dependencies section as well. So for that again I'll just cheat a little. I'll come over here and I'll copy this. And now this Firebase iOS SDK has a lot of dependencies like Firebase auth, I don't know, Firebase storage, Firebase FireStore. So we are only interested in this Firebase FireStore. That's what we have done over here. Okay, again I'll just do command S so that it can, if it wants to do something behind the scenes, it will do it for us. Okay, so we are done with this. We don't have to worry about this now. Just click on next. We'll come back to this later on. We'll configure it. Then click on next again, and then click on continue to console. Once that is done, go to build. Now Firebase, to access this Firebase FireStore, so just click on this FireStore database. Okay, and there are two modes available, production mode and test mode. We will be selecting test mode. The reason is because production mode requires us to configure some kind of Firebase authentication, like email ID password authentication or Google sign-in authentication. I have already made a separate video about email password Firebase authentication iOS plugin for Godot game engine, so I don't want to go into that. If you want, you can watch that video. For now I will just click on create database. I will select one region. Yeah, select whatever region you feel like. I'll select Singapore, is closer to me. I'll just click on next, and here you can see if you do start in production mode, then you will have to integrate Firebase authentication. Again, like I mentioned, I have made a separate video about email password, so if you want, you can use that. I don't want to make this tutorial too complex, so I will just start in test mode. Again, if you want, later on you can convert this test mode to production mode as well. So here you can see, you see this, all these rules, you will have to copy these rules inside your test mode. So for now I'll just click on test mode, and here you can see I can use this test mode till 26th Jan 2025, but again you can change this time as well. It's pretty simple. I'll just click on create. let it create the FireStore database for us. So yeah, I think that should be it. Next, what again, I'll just cheat a little. I already have the code made for myself. I will just open that code and I'll just copy. And next, what you will have to do, come back to your Xcode project, go to my library, come over here, and I'll just paste all the code, and then I'll explain it to you what exactly I'm doing. In the meantime, I'll come back to Firebase just to show you one more thing. If you go to the rules section, uh, like I mentioned, you can change the date. You can come and change the date to whatever you feel like. I want to make it till 2026, so I can just do 2026. I'll click on publish. But this is not the good approach which Firebase recommends. Firebase recommends you integrate Firebase authentication in your application as well, but we are not doing that because I have made a separate video. Now all this code which I have written over here, most of it related to Firebase FireStore, I have got it from this particular documentation. So if you want, you can follow this documentation. I won't go into this documentation. Okay, so coming back to our code, firstly I have imported UI kit, next is Swift Godot, third is Firebase core, and fourth is Firebase FireStore. This code which you see is boilerplate code which you have to write every time you want to integrate Swift Godot inside your library. Ignore these errors. You might also see lot of errors from Xcode. Ignore all those errors. Xcode does not play nicely with Swift Godot, that's why. Then here I have annotated with this with main actor, because all these methods which we have created, which I will show you in a bit, needs to be called on the main thread. Behind the scenes, Firebase will create a background thread for it. We don't have to worry about it, so that's why I have annotated it. Now this is the main class, that's why we have to also annotate with @Godot. It extends from ref counted. This is the signal which I have created. So I want to send data from Godot side to, sorry, from native iOS side to Godot side, so that's why. And here you can see I'm using string. So even if I have list of data, like a list of entries which I have created in FireStore, I will convert it to string and I will send it back to Godot side. I don't know how to handle complex data types while sending data, that's why I'm using string, just for simplicity's sake. Then here we create our variable for FireStore, and here I have called this created one method called init Firebase. I have annotated with @callable, so you can call this from Godot side. We will call this inside the onReady of our Godot game engine, and here we configure our Firebase and also initialize our Firebase FireStore. Then here I have created one method called create first user. It takes two input. Now you like FireStore is a NoSQL database, so you can pass whatever parameters you want, it's up to you. So here is the first name as well as the last name which I'm passing, but instead of that you can pass whatever you feel like. Then I have created this task because we are using async await over here, that's why we have to wrap this with task, and it could fail, that's why I have to use do try catch over here. So here what we are doing is that we are just doing db Firebase FireStore, getting the db.collection users. So if the we have not created any collection inside our FireStore, right? If you come over here, so it will automatically create the collection for us if it doesn't exist, and add the document. So here I am passing first as well as last. Here you can add whatever key you want, suppose age, phone number, password, it's up to you whatever you want to add. Simplicity's sake I have kept first name and last name. Once the data has been added, I just emit a signal with the document ID. Oh, and in case of error I just say error. Again, I'm using the same signal both for success and error, but if you want you can use different signals as well. Then here I have created another method called create second user. Again, it takes first name last name, same thing. Okay, we emit a signal if data is successful, if case of error we send error back. Then the third one is for reading all users. So again I have created one task. We use do try catch. So first we get hold of our db.collection, then we get all the documents out of those collection. Here I have just used this just for my own debugging purpose, you don't really need this, but here you can see if you want you can loop it. But here what I'm, like I told you, I'm converting a list to a string, right? Because that's what I'm sending while sending a signal. So I'm just doing snapshot.documents.map, getting each and every document. Okay, and here I'm converting it to string, so I'm getting the document ID as well as document data, and I'm joining it by /n. And once I have all the document as string, I'm sending it back to Godot side, and here I'm sending error message back to Godot side. Okay, next one is reading a specific user. So next, for read specific user, I am passing the first name, but you don't need to pass the first name. You can also pass the document ID which we are sending. But if you are sending the document ID, then you will have to change the code a little bit. So here you can see I'm checking, I'm getting the collection. I'm sending the first name from Godot side. Then I'm checking whether the first name matches with what we have sent, and whatever, I'm limiting it to only one user. You can change it to whatever you feel like. Then I'm getting the query snapshot. If the user is not present, I'm just printing this out. But if the, okay, we don't need this empty print. But if the user is, sorry, if the user is present, then we can just emit a signal with the document ID as well as the document data. Similarly, here also you can emit an error, but yeah, I'll keep it for you. Then next one is update user. So here I'm taking the first name for the user who wants to be updated, and second parameter is the updated, what you want to update it with. Again, I'm getting the collection, I'm finding the user. Once I have the user, then I'm just I have the document, I just convert it to a dictionary, and then update that particular document with this dictionary which we have, and then again emit a signal. This is for error. Similarly, for deleting a user, we get our collection, we get the user reference, we get the query snapshot, and then we get the document. Once we have the document, we delete that document and just emit a signal. So yeah, hopefully you got the point. I'll simply scroll through this again. Again, ignore all these errors from Xcode. Like I mentioned, Xcode does not play nicely. Feel free to pause the video wherever you feel like and just copy the code. Okay, so we are done with this. Next, what we'll have to do is we'll have to open our terminal, and we'll have to cd to the folder where our my library folder. So I'll just go to our Godot folder, and here is my library. I'll just go to that. I'll clear everything out. Okay. uh, then, oh sorry, before that I need to do one more step. So what I'll do is I'll just close this. uh, I have VS Code open. You don't have to use VS Code. It's just that we need to create a build.sh file inside our my library folder, and I'm not really good at creating that from Xcode. If you want, you can create it from Xcode as well. So I have this Godot folder, right? I'll open the entire Godot folder in VS Code. Next, inside our library, so I'll just paste my cheat sheet as well over here. This cheat sheet is not saved anywhere, so don't get confused. So inside our library, we'll have to create a file called build.sh. Now to get the code for this, you just have to go to this particular URL. So thanks to this particular guy for helping me out on how to create iOS plugins with uh, Swift. So I'll just copy everything from this, and I'll go to our build.sh file. I'll paste it over here. Now over here we have to make two changes. First change is, here you have to write your own library name. So my library name is just my library, so that's what I'll write. I'll save it. And also we need to add this particular thing as well, skip macro validation slash, because it was giving me an error, and this guy Stefan told me to add this. Again, I'm not really sure why I need this, but I was getting error, that's why I'm adding this. Okay, so just two changes. This should be your library name, and make sure you add this as well. Okay, once this is done, then we'll can go to our terminal and first run this particular command. Make sure you're inside your library folder. I'll just run this. Once that is done, we have to run this command. Now I'm not planning to deploy this app to Google Apple App Store, so I'm only generating the debug framework or the debug library. If you are planning to do it, you should generate release as well. You just have to replace the word debug by release, but currently I'm only testing it locally, so I'll just run this. Now this will take a little bit of time. Let it do its thing. We'll come back to our Godot project, create a 2D scene, quickly save it. I'll just run it all as well so that my current scene is selected. Okay, then I'll just go to I'll go over here. I'll create one button. Now we'll need few buttons. So first is for create first user, right? Create first user. I'll save it. Then I'll just duplicate this button as well, and here I will name it as create second user. Okay, Next, again I'll duplicate this to read a user, read all users, I mean read all users. Fourth button is for reading a specific user, read specific user. Fifth button is for update a oh sorry, I didn't duplicate it. Fifth button is for update user. And last one is for uh, delete user. And final one is label as well. So here I will create one label. I will just expand this label. Okay, and I will just change the font size for all of this. Theme override font size 40 would be fine according to me. Okay, then again I'll save it. I'll attach one script to this as well. I'll click on create. Now I will add the on pressed for all of our button. So this is the first, this is the second, and this is the third button, and this is the fourth button, fifth one, and last sixth one. Okay, so once this is done, I'll just yeah, minimize that. Then again I'll just cheat a little. I'll just open my practice project, not this one, this one. Okay, because I need to copy some code. I'll explain it to you. So I'll just open this file. So firstly we'll have to create this particular I'll just close this. So firstly we'll have to create this particular um, variable for getting hold of our library, iOS library. So I'm just creating this particular variable. Then inside on ready we just have to initialize it as well as connect our signal and also initialize Firebase. So inside on ready we can use something like this. So if you see this is my library name, change it to your own library name. As well as over here we are connecting our signal, my signal name was output, and here we initialize Firebase as well. Then we have to create this method. So if you see here I have named this as the method name. You can change it to whatever you feel like, and whenever our signal is called we update the label inside our we update the text inside our label. Now I need to get hold of our label as well, so I can just drag and drop it. So here I have got the hold of that as well. Then we just have to add the button click. So this is pretty simple. So on first button click, which is create user, I'm calling it like this. I'm just checking whether this has been initialized. Then just call the create first user, pass the values for first name and last name. Similarly for second user as well. Similarly for third user, for reading all users, something like this. Then the fourth button press method for reading a specific user. Then fifth one is for updating the users. So if you remember, we were first asking for which first name you want to update and what you want to update it with. And the last one is to delete a user. So we'll just add this and I'll paste it over here. Okay, then just make sure you save it. Otherwise, if you are like me, you will export it and then wonder why it is not working. Make sure you save everything. Again I'll just go back to my cheat sheet, and if you see over here inside our Godot project we'll have to create a bin folder. Now if you want you can create it from Godot game engine as well, but I will use VS Code. So here is my Godot project open. I'll just create a bin folder. Inside that we have to create this my library.gd extension file. Again this should be your own library name. The reason, like I told you, I'm creating it from VS Code is because if you see over here I'm not able to open this file .gdx. Again there might be workaround for this, but yeah, I don't want to go into that. Now inside this .gd extension file you just have to copy this bit of code. So I'll just copy and I'll paste it over here. Now again, if you have generated release mode, you have to replace release over here as well as over here. And now if I go to our terminal, okay, so this is still building. In the meantime what I will do is we need to now extract the project as well, right? So if I go to Godot folder, we need to extract this, turn this Godot project into an iOS project. So for now what I'll do, I'll just create one iOS folder so that the extraction would be easy, I think. Okay, so here I will just wait for, okay, so this is also done, thank God. So I'll just go to my library, go to bin, go to iOS, and here you can see two files being generated. So I'll just copy these two, I'll go back to my Godot project, go to bin, and I'll paste it over here. So these two things have been pasted. Now we will have to export our project. Okay, so this is done. Now just go to project, export. The reason why I created the iOS folder is because once we export our Godot project to iOS, it will create a lot of files, so I don't want that confusion. So I'll just click on export project. Just go to iOS folder, and here you can just click on save. Now again, this will take a little bit of time, so be patient. Once this is done, I'll come back. Alright, so as you can see, my project was exported fine, and then you just have to go to your iOS folder and double click on this .xcode proj file. It will open it inside VS Code. Now you will have to run this output on real device. Also, before you run our output, if you remember, we have downloaded this Google services info.plist file. So you will have to drag and drop this file inside your Godot project and make sure this particular checkbox is checked and click on finish. So you will see something like this. Every time you export your iOS project from Godot, this file will get lost. So make sure you copy this file every single time. If you have a better way, do let me know in the comments. Now again, we will have to run this on a real device, is because I think the Vulkan drivers or something are not supported on simulator. So yeah, you will face a lot of issues. Okay, so this was pretty quick. Let me just mirror my device. Okay, so here it is. Now for the very first time you will face this issue. I'll just click on continue, and here you can see timeout. Again, I'll just run it one more time. I face this issue every single time. I don't know what this issue is. Also, we are running inside debug mode, so the performance will be little bit off. Now what I can do is I can just show you back our FireStore. So it is empty at the very start. I'll come back over here, let it initialize. I'll just move this a little bit. Okay, and I move this a little bit. Okay, let's just wait. So here you can see this is the output. Now I'll click on create first user button, and here you can see user has been created. Now here you just need to refresh this, and here you can see it has created the collection as well as our user as well. Okay, then I'll click on create second user. So that has also been created. Here you can see. Then I will just read all users, just concentrate on the label, and here you can see. Now here you will have to just filter the data from on the Godot side or GDScript side. If you're like me, sending all the data in string format, I think you can do that pretty easily. Then to read a specific user, I'll just click on this, and here you can see I was reading our second user because that was the parameter I was passing. Now update user, if you remember, I was renaming Luke to Anakin. So if I just come over here, you can see it has been changed. Now if I click on delete user, here you can see that the user was deleted as well. So hopefully you got the point. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Bye.